Welcome to Chaos to Clarity, where we discuss healing trauma with godly guidelines. I'm your host, Jean Fontenot. If there's any topic you'd like to hear me talk about, please let me know in the Q&A section. Let's dive into today's episode. The topic is set apart. It means to put aside, to isolate, or to separate. A personal experience of mine is I'm always being called bougie, high maintenance, or fancy. I've been known to overdress for occasions a time or two. But it's something I love to do for me, and it's made me different than the crowd for years. Not realizing that was one of God's ways of setting me apart in a sense. This is part of the refining process, to set you aside and to prepare you for your divine purpose, even if we do it alone because we don't fit in. This past summer, I spent a lot of days isolated, studying the Word and studying about trauma and healing. I was separated from the distractions of life while God refined me, mind, body, and spirit. The Word says in Deuteronomy 14:2, "For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. Out of all the peoples on the face of the earth, the Lord has chosen you to be his treasured possession." That sounds pretty awesome to me. And then I was reminded of the way that wheat is harvested, coming from a predominantly agricultural state, Louisiana. This was a good way to reference how being set apart can be, I guess, like compared to threshing, winnowing, sieving are the steps done to process the wheat, to separate the good from the bad. The process of threshing the wheat is to get the grain from the stalk. Winnowing is to separate the mixed up stuff, the grain, the stalk, and the husk. Only the heavy good stuff stays during this process. Sieving is the part that allows the grain to be shaken up, and it separates anything else from the grain that doesn't belong. This makes it the purest form of the grain. God wants us to be our absolute best to do his will. We have to go through isolation, which means to separate oneself from others, and the refining, which means to remove impurities or unwanted elements, in order to get all the junk out and be ready to fulfill the things God has called us to do. He's separating us from the things that aren't pure and that don't lead others to him. It may be painful during this refining process, but it's necessary to grow in the things of God. A few other references to scripture are Ruth 3:2-7, 1 Chronicles 21:20, and Isaiah 41:15. Thank you so much for listening to Chaos to Clarity, where we help one another declutter our minds together. If you're loving the podcast, I'd be so honored if you'd go ahead and hit that follow button and leave me a review. Until next time, friends.